We are starting the next surah, Surah al-Mumtaḥana. Surah of the one who is tested, imtihan, is testing. Surah number 60, ayah number 1. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا عدوي وعدوكم أولياء تلقون إليهم بالمودة وقد كفروا بما جاءكم من الحق يخرجون الرسول وإياكم أن تؤمنوا بالله ربكم إن كنتم خرجتم جهادا في سبيلي وابتغاء مرضاتي تسرون إليهم بالمودة وأنا أعلم بما أخفيتم وما أعلنتم ومن يفعله منكم فقد ضل سواء السبيل. There's a bit of background to these ayat in the beginning, at least. The surah is about testing Muslims to see if they have iman or not, which is only allowed through the government. It's not allowed for individual Muslims to test each other. It has to be at the state level, as you will see. So, the story goes that there was a certain lady from the Kuffar who came to Medina after the Fath Makkah. Hudaybiyah treaty was signed. She came over. She was not a Muslim, but apparently she had lost her ability to earn money because she was a singer and a dancer, so that nobody in Makkah was left to give her any money for entertainment. So she migrated to Medina, and the Prophet ﷺ heard about her, spoke to her. Her name was Sarah, and said, "Why are you here? Are you here because you want to accept Islam?" She said, "No." "Are you here to help the Muslim cause?" She said, "No." So he asked her, "Why are you here then?" He said, "I'm here because I'm in financial difficulty. I can't live. I don't have any money for food or anything else. I am desperate. I'm here trying to find people I knew in Mecca to see if they can help me." So the Prophet ﷺ allowed her to stay there a few days, and he informed the Banu Abdul Muttalib people in Mecca that they should help her, and then he sent her back to Mecca. He didn't let her stay in Medina. He sent her back. Okay. So that's one part of the story. The second part of the story is that there is a Sahabi by the name of Hatib, a very famous Sahabi, Hatib ibn Baltah, and he was from Yemen. He had some close relatives in Mecca. He had nobody in Medina, but he was in Medina at that time. So the Prophet ﷺ was on his way to Mecca to conquer Mecca because the Quraysh had at that time broken the treaty of the Hudaybiyah conditions. They broke the treaty, and as you know, if you break a treaty, then you can go and fight the people who have committed treason and they have been disingenuous and so on. So he was preparing an army to go to Mecca to conquer Makkah, and Hatib knew that the Prophet was going, and he felt that if the Makkans found out that certain people who are Muslim are in Makkah, they would harm them before the Prophet ﷺ came. So anyway, Hatib wanted to defend the honor, dignity of his relatives, and he did not think that informing the Quraysh of the Prophet's intention to invade Mecca would be that much of a big problem. But as you know, in warfare, you can't divulge any intelligence to the enemy. That is almost treason. Right? So anyway, Hatib sent a letter with this woman, Sarah, this woman that the Prophet sent to Mecca. With this woman, he knew she was going. So Hatib wrote a letter to his relatives in Mecca, stating the intent of the Prophet to invade Mecca. So Hatib sent it with this lady. And the Prophet was informed by Wahi, this is what Hatib has done. So the Prophet summoned Hatib, interrogated him, tested him with his Iman, are you truly a Muslim? And he passed the test, I'm really a Muslim. And the only reason I sent the letter was to protect my family from harm. I did not want to bring any harm to the Muslim Ummah, and especially not to you. But it was an open investigation. It was a public inquiry. It wasn't hidden behind closed doors. It was public. So the other Sahaba knew about the inquiry. So Umar said, Ya Rasulullah, he is now a traitor. Give me permission to kill him. You wouldn't expect anything less from Umar, I guess. So the Prophet said, no, you can't do that. Okay. So anyway, the Prophet sent Ali and Zubayr ibn Awam en route to Mecca and told them that you will catch up to this woman, Sarah, at this place just before Mecca. So they went on their horses. They caught up to the woman exactly the same place where the Prophet said she would be. And they interrogated her. Ali, he said, what are you doing? Where are you going? And she said, I'm going back to Mecca. Your Prophet sent me back to Mecca, so I'm going back. He said, you have a letter with you? She said, no, I don't have a letter. So they said, the Prophet said you have a letter, so the Prophet's word is true. You better give us the letter or we're going to strip you naked. Again, the idea of testing really threatened her. Said, okay. So she produced the letter, and the letter said whatever it said. When the news reached the Prophet and the Sahaba that the letter was found, Umar then reinstated his displeasure against Hatib and said, and now I really have to kill him. So the Prophet said, no, don't you know that he participated in Badr? And Allah has forgiven every Muslim who participated in Badr, and Allah has promised Jannah to everyone who was there at Badr. You can't touch him. Yeah, so Omar started crying. What does this show you? This shows you that there is national security, and then there is divine knowledge of a person's destination, known as fadila. Fadila, you know fadila? Virtue, merit that is divinely ordained. I mean, Allah informs the Prophet of the fate of this person through wahi. So Umar started crying because he did not want to second guess Allah and the Rasul. If he's in Jannah, why am I touching him? If Allah has promised Jannah to Hatib, it doesn't matter what he does. So against national security, the interests of national security, the Sahaba and the Rasul always gave preference to Fadila. And that is a Sunni Aqidah. This is what separates Sunni Islam from, what you call it, politics. One is that politically Umar was right. He committed treason and he should be punished. But Islamically, Umar was wrong. So the difference between public policy, how politics work, your political theory, and national security, and Fadila. Fadila is Allah giving knowledge to the Rasul that a certain person is forgiven, even though he committed treason. And that's how you do your Sunni Islam. So whatever might have happened between Ali and Muawiyah, we don't say anything against them. Why? Because Allah has promised Jannah for both of them. So that's your Sunni Aqidah. Meaning political context does not override theological realities. Political context does not govern Aqidah. Aqidah is not contextual to political considerations. That is Sunni Islam. So you have to get over it. Like Umar got over it, more than got over it, he cried. He said, I'm wrong. He acknowledged, he acquiesced, yes, there is national security at stake. But more than that, I have to believe in what Allah and the Rasul say. So my approach to national security is based on what Wahi tells me, not what my political theory tells me. That's the lesson we have from this surah. Yeah. Now you can say what you want in your political theory and opportunism, exploitation, making mistakes, whatever. It doesn't matter. Once Allah has informed us that the eventual fate of this person is Jannah, then we can't touch him or her. That is the point of Aqidah now. You are sacrificing your salvation if you say anything. So Allah says to the Sahaba, as he saw in Surah Hadid previously, وَكُلًّا وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الْحُسْنَى. For each group, we have promised Jannah. Those who spend before Fath Makkah and those who spend after Fath Makkah, each group we are promising Jannah. Each group. So Muawiyah came after Fath Makkah. But he's in the group that is where? In Jannah. Ali is in the group that came before Fath Makkah. He's in Jannah, Muawiyah is in Jannah. So what can we say? We can't say anything. So our political theory is not governed by political considerations only. We have to use Wahi to determine our approach as Sunni Muslims. What's our approach? Our approach is that we follow the Rasul. Ittiba. We follow the Rasul. We follow Wahi. We don't reinvent, nor do we second guess, nor do we initiate what we think should be the reality. And if you do that, then you're Khariji. The Kharijis are Kafirs. The Kharijis did this. The first people who claimed this bid'ah, the Kharijis who said that political considerations should guide Aqidah. Human beings and their actions should guide Aqidah. So anyone who commits a major sin is no longer Muslim. There is a Kafir. But we don't do that. So the Sunni Muslim is very committed and loyal to Wahi. which is what the Rasul is. The Rasul is committed to wahi. The Sahaba were committed to following the Rasul in whatever is revealed, so they follow the Rasul. Likewise, Sunni Muslims, the Tabi'een, and others who came after them, they follow the Sahaba in following wahi. So even though they saw Ali and Muawiyah fighting, one of them had to be wrong. Is if when there's a fight, one party has to be wrong. They can't be both right. So even though we can see that one party is wrong, we will not blame any of the parties because of aqidah, not because of political considerations. That is now the imtihan, that's the test that Omar had to go through, radiallahu anhu, that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tested Omar also, as he tested Hatib for doing what he did, and he found Hatib to be telling the truth. Now, Omar was also being tested. So which way do you go? Because Omar is the greatest statesman, right? In Muslim history, the greatest statesman is who? Omar radiallahu anhu. So he knew statehood. He knew how to run a government and all of that, as he proves himself in his khilafah. But when it came to following the Rasul, it's a no-brainer. You follow the Rasul, finish, khalas. Doesn't matter what your aql says. Doesn't matter what your political theory is. So political theories and your rationality is not going to govern your aqidah. Aqidah is acontextual. So that's the story that the Prophet ﷺ then dismissed Hatib and said, okay, go, you're okay, you're Badri Sahabi, we'll forgive you for what you did. And he made sure that the note that was sent was now intercepted, and then there was no harm done to the Ummah. But this is the background to these ayat, especially first two ayat in this surah, Al-Mumtaḥana, as you see. Anyway, the remainder of the surah will confirm what I'm saying, inshallah. So this is now how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then reveals this ayah to inform Muslims what is now our policy vis-a-vis treating non-Muslims at a state level, at the macro level. This is about national security now. This is about national security. Okay? Yeah, meaning that there is a micro level of saying hello, goodbye, good morning to your non-Muslim neighbor. That's micro. Don't bring that here. Don't bring this ayah into your micro affairs with your neighbors. It doesn't apply. There's a different context. All right. So that is called coexisting. Making sure you do no harm to people. Making sure you protect your neighborhood from harm and violence. Because if you're rude to your neighbor, they're going to come and hit you. Now you're creating violence. You're initiating violence. That's on you. So that at the micro level, if you have a non-Muslim and he's your neighbor, be kind, as the ayah will say. The rest of the surah will say this. Okay? Don't go on your high horse. He's a kafir. Therefore, I must be an enemy of a kafir. And a kafir is my enemy. Therefore, I must do everything. Make sure he's hurt. Don't do that. That's stupid. These are the macro level. When it's now national security, we have some policies. What are these policies? These are the policies. Okay. Oh, you who believe, do not take my enemy and your enemy as friends and patrons, that you're casting now love in them and towards them. Don't make them your friends, that you're making them believe that you're buddy friends. When it comes to the national security of the ummah, when it's the security ummah, make sure you don't represent yourselves as being favorable to the non-Muslim agenda. Don't do that. No. So now, there's one is that they are my enemy, but more than that, they're your enemy. They're what? They're your enemy. So don't assume that somebody who is now running a non-Muslim state is going to favor you. It's about the mindset. very important to the American Muslim of today. As a mindset, don't assume they're your friends because their policies are very non-Muslim. And they will do what they need to do to promote their policies, their agenda. And they do not want to mix and match with yours. Some values will overlap. Their neighbors will be kind to you too. When it comes to national agenda, they're never going to concede foreign policy for Palestine. It ain't happening. In a billion years, it's not happening. So forget about it. Meaning that you treat them well, but don't assume that if they ever come to you for help, then there's always an agenda. And it's not even a hidden agenda, it's a very open agenda. We want you to serve the American interest. They're not going to say, we want you to serve the Muslim interest. But then they won't be American. That's treason on their part. Right? So you have to say that they are my enemy and they're your enemy also, meaning that they will never allow you to promote Islam at a level where the country becomes Muslim. That ain't happening. You have freedom to practice your religion. Take that as a great gift and stick with it. That's fine. Practice your religion. But don't aim to convert this system into a Muslim system politically and militarily. That ain't happening. Because then they won't be American anymore. Right? Unless they all convert, which is a possibility, inshallah, one day. They all become Muslim, then it's fine. But until that happens, don't assume that their policies and their government is going to facilitate the promotion of Islam, at a whole scale level, because that's against their agenda. Don't be stupid. Be very sensible. It's common sense. You're coming into my house. I'm not going to allow you to move the furniture in my house. You can stay as a guest. You can even eat the food in the kitchen. But you're not going to damage the walls. You're not going to break down the walls. You're not going to change the accents in the house. You're not going to do this. This is my house, and you obey my rules. Okay? So that is the commonsensical approach. Yeah. So now they allow you to live in their house, so you live in the house without creating unnecessary disorder. Unless you want to demolish the house. If you want to demolish the house, and then you have to leave the country. Then you can't stay here because that's being disingenuous also. Then you're munafiq. Right? So it's not about balance, it's about being sensible. Be sensible with it. So this ayah is saying that don't take them to be your eternal friends just because they are allowing you to live here. They'll never become that. Now, what is the Muslims? Don't show unnecessary hostility. Don't do anything that lands you in jail. Don't do that. Don't do anything that's illegal. Okay, follow the rules of the house and you'll be fine. If you want to make a change, then make a change where change is allowed and possible. No one's stopping you in this country so far from proselytizing. Is anyone stopping you from spreading Islam at a micro level? No. Give dawah, be kind, generous. Talk to them about Islam. Say you're Muslims. Talk to them about salvation and Jannah. No one's stopping you. Meaning you don't have to say that we want to take over your country. That is stupid. Then obviously they'll kill you. And maybe they should. I'm not saying because you're Muslim, I'm saying because that's just the principle. You come into, Gaza and you want to kill everybody, then what's our response? We'll kill you. We do the same thing. National security works, what do you call it? Across the board. Everywhere is the same. Right? So as in the context of the macro state, when you want to preserve the macro state of a Muslim, in a Muslim country, like what the ayah is saying, now you're in Darul Islam, now you're in Medina, now you're going to have Makkah also incorporated in Darul Islam. When you have this leverage and this authority and this power, don't concede any of that to the non-Muslim and say, you also have power because we're going to give you some power. We're not doing that. We're going to make sure that our interests are protected first in Darul Islam. So if you want to live in Darul Islam, our interest is that you can be a dhimmi. You can't be equal citizen. You're not a Muslim. And if you're not a Muslim, you'll pay jizya. That's our law. Okay. Like in this country. It doesn't matter. If you're in the country, you're earning money, you pay taxes. Taxes equal opportunity to anyone who lives in the country. Whether you can vote, whether you're a citizen, whether you're a green card holder, whether you're on H1 visa, it doesn't matter. You earn money in the States, you will pay taxes. That's their law. So you better pay taxes. Right? So likewise, jizya is the same thing. For non-Muslims in a Muslim country, we will definitely accommodate you in terms of your legal and civil rights. But in order for you to do that, you have to pay jizya. Because now you're not first tier, you're second tier. And that's the way things work in the world. Everywhere in the world, it works the same way. Why should Muslims be any different in the way they govern? And so on. But don't make them friends, giving them a sense that there is mawaddah. Mawaddah means love, compassion, and compatibility. Don't do that. Don't sell your soul to the devil, basically. Why? As they have disbelieved. وَقَدْ كَفَرُوا بِمَا جَاءَكُم مِّنَ الْحَقِّ. As they have disbelieved in what has come to you of the truth. The Quran has come to you, Islam has come to you, the Rasul has come to you. These are all haqq. Now the haqq has come to you, but they don't like you accepting the haqq, so they can never be your friends. And you should not be their friends. أَن تُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ رَبِّكُمْ. Simply يُخْرِجُونَ الرَّسُولَ وَإِيَّاكُمْ. Simply because they're driving the Rasul away from his homeland and you away from your homeland, simply because you believe in Allah, who is your Lord. Indeed, you have left Makkah out of jihad. خرجتم جهادا في سبيل الله. If you have left Makkah as an act of jihad in my path, and you have left Makkah ibtigha mardati, seeking my pleasure, then you will not take these people as your bosom friends and your patrons and your allies and so on. Tusirrun ilayhim bil mawaddah, as you are now hiding, mawaddah and love towards them. Wa ana a'lamu bima akhfaytum wa ma a'lantum, and I know exactly what it is you hide, and I know what you reveal and what you expose. وَمَن يَفْعَلْهُ مِنْكُمْ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. Whoever does this from amongst you, then he has definitely gone astray from the right path, the correct path. Don't do this as a policy. Don't do this. You cannot do this if you're part of the Muslim Ummah and you're running a Muslim government. Then you cannot have now Muslims associating with non-Muslims. Make sure the Muslims and Islam always have the upper hand. You must be in control of your laws, of your policies, of your system, whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, so that is not as far as accommodating them, especially in administrative issues and especially in politics and in governance and all of that. Keep them underneath you. They can remain your subordinate, that's fine. They can't become a superior. Otherwise, you lose your way. Anyway, so you see that now this is the macro, at the level of the state security. You have to be very sensible about it and not to be emotional about it and so on. One is that way. The other, obviously, is that in the interest of running a Muslim government, you might be well advised to think twice before you make announcement about Islam and Islamic policies and attitudes to the world. There is something called that you live with other countries in the world. Coexistence, that you're an independent state, no doubt. But you do need the world to support you in some way, shape, or form, because you don't live in a vacuum. So there you need now foreign policy, you need soft power, you need what we call the foreign ministry to come and do some diplomatic relationships with other non-Muslim countries. Don't be so naive that other non-Muslim countries don't have an impact. They do. They can make things very difficult for you and for the Muslims in your country if you don't know how to behave and negotiate with them. And so it can be, we're independent, we're Muslim, we can do what we want. You can, but you'll die. You'll starve your people to death. You won't have an infrastructure. Nobody will do any business with you. Is there a government on the planet today that can survive without international relationships? I don't think so. You're part of the world, right? So you have neighbors. The neighbors will do something. So you have to be sensible. Think further than your nose. I want to be totally Muslim, and I'm going to announce to the world that I'm Muslim, which is okay-ish. It's your country, your government. You do what you want, but you have to think about the repercussions that you are going to create if you are foolhardy and if you are stubborn and you don't allow certain, necessary, conventions to exist in your country. Okay. So you have an airport and you're so gung-ho about being Muslim. I will not allow a non-Muslim airplane to land on my airport. Isn't that stupid, huh? Like, stupid as that sounds, then your policies, your foreign ministry has to be able to defend you and your country in the international PR to justify that others should come and do business with you. Right? So you need someone to advise these governments how to do, negotiations with foreign countries. You can't do that if you're not friendly. So it's give and take. This is national security. Then. But as part of national security, you have to zoom out. Okay, what are the repercussions now? For instance, if I want to establish a la riba, no interest-based system in one country like Pakistan, as an example, then I have to understand that if I do this, then how will I conduct business with non-Muslim companies? How would I conduct business in the international market? Have you thought of this as a Muslim economist? We agree, riba should not be there. But how do you implement this in a world where you're so dependent on others to support you economically? You can't say, we'll have no riba and we'll tawakkal on Allah. It doesn't work that way. So you have to create an economic environment where you sell the idea of la riba to non-Muslims. That's where your negotiations are going to come. Hey, look, I have a system that is not exploitative. And I have a formula that if we implement this formula as a group of countries, we can do better together economically if we go down this road. So you have to bargain. You have to deal. Then that's where the ivory tower comes in. That's when your white papers come in. That's when your policy papers come in. That's when your articles and journals come in. That's when your books come in. That's when your education comes in. That's when your curricula comes in. You have to administer this through soft power, not by being stubborn. Right? Because if Pakistan announces tomorrow there's no riba in Pakistan, it will sink. It won't just fail, it will just sink. It will not exist economically. It can't, because the whole world economic system revolves around one thing. So what do they have to do? They say, yes, we can have a no interest policy in the country, but we have to find a way to do business with non-Muslims. How do we do that? A non-Muslim is not going to come and say, yeah, this no riba is great. We love the altruism and we'll do business with you because you're so noble and so altruistic. They couldn't care less. Don't be stupid. Think about this. Think this through. Think about the repercussions of what it is you're saying. When you say Islam as a slogan, Islam. That's not what the Prophet ﷺ did. That you have to build a system that has national security, that there are no traitors in your community, number one. And number two, that the whole ummah and the whole community works towards the benefit and the ethos of the Muslim ummah. And then the Muslim ummah goes out and negotiates terms and treaties and businesses with non-Muslims. That's what Abu Bakr did in his Khilafah. Abu Bakr did two things. So you don't know about the Sirah of Abu Bakr. People just read the Sirah of Umar and Uthman. You don't know what Abu Bakr was a genius. In 2 years, what he did. First, he weeded out all the traitors from the Ummah. National security. You know, the Harb al-Ridda, the wars against the Murtaddin. He rooted them out. We don't want anyone to even think of espionage or be a traitor or commit treason in the Jazeera. So anyone who is now a Murtad will just kill you. No compromise. Right? The first thing he did. What's the second thing he did? Abu Bakr made treaties, business deals with all the neighboring surrounding tribes around the Jazeera. Business deals. Never mind jihad, this is business. Sahaba, he's Qurayshi, right? Abu Bakr was in business. He was a businessman. He's Qurayshi, he traveled. One of the reasons why the hijrah to Habsha was facilitated so easily was because of Uthman's business contracts in Abyssinia. It wasn't done in a vacuum. Uthman had business deals in Abyssinia, and he knew the businessmen. And the businessmen vouched for Uthman and his people in front of the Najashi. That's how they got asylum. It wasn't through jihad, Islam. They were sensible people. They were traders. They understood the value of business and the value of business treaties. So Abu Bakr made so many treaties with the neighboring tribes that he now established Darul Islam, where there was now peace, security, infrastructure within Darul Islam, so that the next Khalifa who came was able to launch the expansionism of Islam. So he set the table. So likewise here and today, if you want to say that in our Darul Islam, we will not have any treason, and we'll make sure there's no espionage, and we'll make sure there's no traitor, and we will not show non-Muslims, especially in our country, that they can do whatever they want in our country, and even overthrow the government, even overthrow the culture, and even overthrow. At the same time, the Muslim leader, Hakim, along with his advisors, must find a way to negotiate with non-Muslim neighbors that they want to do business with them. Otherwise, your country will suffocate. You won't be able to breathe. So keep that in mind. As you know, say Islam is also it's commonsensical. Use some common sense sometimes in your foreign policy. Be very careful how you advertise yourselves to the non-Muslim audience. That does count. PR goes a long way nowadays. International relationships go a very long way, and we need people who can do that and advise some of our governments how to do that, inshallah, mashallah. إن يثقفوكم يكونوا لكم أعداء ويبسطوا إليكم أيديهم وألسنتهم بالسوء وودوا لو تكفرون. So what is their agenda? Their agenda is here. وودوا لو تكفرون. That's their agenda. They really love the idea that you disbelieve. They don't want you to believe in this scripture. They don't want you to believe in this religion. They don't want you to follow Muhammad. They don't want you to follow Islam. وودوا لو تكفرون. There's only one niyyah they have. They want you to become non-Muslim. That's their agenda. That's the macro of living in a non-Muslim country, that they always will want you to become like them in the melting pot. But unfortunately, or fortunately for Muslims, alhamdulillah, through Allah's fadl, we're just so stubborn and resilient. We're a pain in the A for them. What's wrong with these goddamn Muslims? They love their religion so much. Huh? They look at you and say, why is she wearing a scarf? Trump, for whatever you say about Trump, sometimes he has a bit of common sense. He gave a talk a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys caught it. And he was saying, we're talking about Afghanistan women. And I spoke to somebody in Afghanistan, and they say, they're women, they want to wear the veil and the niqab. Their statement is, but we want to wear this. We've been doing it for 1,000 years, so why are you telling us not to do it? So he made a comment. So who are we to force them to take it off? Trump was saying, who are we to force them to take it off when they want to wear it? Freedom of expression, right? You understand? Sometimes there's common sense in certain people. So likewise here, if you tell people, mashallah, that why are you Muslim? Because I want to be Muslim. Why do you fast in Ramadan? Because I want to. If you ask, well, why am I wearing a scarf or hijab? I want to. That's the end of discussion. You don't need any logic. You don't need intellectual discourses. I have freedom to do what I want. I want to wear the scarf, so you must let me wear the scarf because that's your freedom. You understand? So sometimes you just have to be very straightforward in front of people and say, I want to do this because I want to. Why do you want to be a Muslim? I want to. What are they going to say? Can't say anything. And that's, I think, where you need to inject within the Muslim a certain understanding of how the US psyche works. Understand how US freedom works. Okay. I'm free to pray 5 times a day. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. I'm free to eat zabiha meat. I'm free to do my nikah this way. I'm free to wear clothing this way. I'm free, and because I'm free, you should allow me the freedom, because that's what your country stands for. Right? That's called being American. So all these people who are apologetics, they're not even American, because the American will say, I want to. You'll apologize, bend over backwards, trying to convince them, oh, there's something called, making sure that there's no passion, desire when you look at a woman. Yeah, right. That ain't working. Tell the woman, I want to wear the scarf. That's it. Finish. Khalas. End of discussion. It's about wanting. And then showing people that you want Islam and you want to practice Islam and you want Muslim women to wear the scarf, or as Trump says, they want to wear the veil. So let them wear the veil. No? Does it make any sense at all? Yeah. Or you want to be apologetic. Oh, it's a cultural tradition. See, when you become stupid, it's a cultural tradition. Really? Is that how low you're going to be now? You're saying that these are tribal people and they have no values except the tribe, and because of their tribal values, they want to wear the veil. So he's saying, no, the Afghani women say, we want to wear the veil because we want to. End of discussion. Now, whether it looks good in your eyes or bad in your eyes, who cares? That's what freedom is. Who cares? No? So you have to get over this hump of trying to please and appease other people in trying to justify your religious stance. Don't do that. Just say, this is what, because I want to. End of story. So here the agenda of the non-Muslim based on this ayah is at the end of the ayah, وَوَدُّوا لَوْ تَكْفُرُونَ, they really want and desire and love the idea that you are now disbelievers. If you find them, then they will be your enemy. Allah is saying that if you find these people in a group, they will be your sworn enemies. And then they will spread out their hands and their tongues with evil towards you. They won't hide their evil. They'll just ruthlessly kill you because they don't like you. They want to kill you because they don't like you. There's only hatred there. وَوَدُّوا لَوْ تَكْفُرُونَ. Okay. And then they want to really make sure you disbelieve. And so don't fall for that. لَن تَنْفَعَكُمْ أَرْحَامُكُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَفْصِلُ بَيْنَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. Okay. Yeah, your relatives and your disbelieving children will never help you on the day of judgment. It's very critical that on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَنُفِخَ فِي السُّورِ فَلَا أَنْسَابَ بَيْنَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَلَا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. That once the trumpet is blown into, then on the day of judgment, there will be no relationships between people. Your blood relationships will disappear. لَا أَنْسَابَ بَيْنَهُمْ. You run away from your mother, from your father, from your son, from your wife, from your sister, from your brother, as the Quran says. يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ. You run away from everybody who's related to you because you're worried about your own salvation. So Allah here says the same thing. That as a consequence, you may want to help your tribesmen here, your relatives here, the people close to you here, your family, your in-laws, your cousins, your dozens, your aunts, your uncles, anyone who's part of your tribe, you may want to help them. And you may give benefit to them here, but on the day of judgment, they'll never help you. Oh, I helped this cousin of mine, he's going to vouch for me on the day of judgment. That ain't happening because he'll be worried about his own salvation. He's not going to come to your rescue, nor will you come to his rescue. يَفْصِلُ بَيْنَكُمْ. Allah will separate you amongst you. There will be a separation. Separation will be that of Iman and Kufr. One is Iman, the other is separation between good deeds and bad deeds, separation between people going to Jannah, people going to Jahannam. That will be the separation. And that is what you must live by and live for, that you don't override the values of Islam merely because they're your relatives. To a certain point, yes. Take care of them, be kind to them, but don't overstep the boundaries of Sharia by saying, because they're my relatives, I must help them. So this obviously a lesson for Hatib, that you have to be careful, Hatib, that you don't prefer your relatives over the Rasul, and you don't prefer your relatives over Muslims and Islam, and so be careful what you do. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. Allah is always looking towards what it is you're doing. Allah is seeing what you're doing. He observes what it is you're doing. So He knows the aqibah. He knows the consequence of your actions. So you must realize the consequence of your actions. You must see the consequence of your actions beyond this world. Okay, not just in this world, but beyond this world. Now, should you be kind, generous to people in general? Yes, as you will see the next few ayat will tell you that. But at the same time, for protecting the Muslims, protecting the integrity of Islam, protecting the integrity of the Quran and Sunnah, protecting the integrity of the Prophet ﷺ. We are not allowed to do anything that might compromise that integrity, which will also come up in one of the ayat. So a Muslim cannot be allowed to do something even in Darul Harb, even if it's allowed, if it's going to bring the Ummah into disrepute. It may be allowed technically, but if non-Muslims catch hold, all Muslims are gambling and drinking and womanizing, and that's how they see us, then you're bringing Islam and Muslims into disrepute. It will be categorically haram. It will be more haram than haram. Then you have a double sin, meaning how people perceive you as an ummah. National security is not ummah security. The security of the ummah is that nobody should point a finger at the Muslim ummah and say Muslims are allowing people to do this when it's vile and evil in the eyes of other people. That's how much PR is. The fuqaha was so good in understanding the value of PR. It wasn't, oh, my Islam is good, my have taqwa. No. You must be able to see how it impacts other people. For instance, in the masala of going to the grave and raising your hands at the grave, very micro issue. The fuqaha say it's not allowed. Others will say, what's the big deal? They say, Baba, the big deal is that if a non-Muslim is there with you, what's he going to think? He's going to think you're soliciting from the person in the grave, which is kufr and shirk. So that level of PR has been appreciated in the fiqh, that if a non-Muslim assumes your action is now leading to kufr and shirk, you can't engage in that action. You see how meticulous they were in preserving the integrity of Islam. PR goes a long way, right? A very, very long way. So I said, that's why in your national security too, the Prophet ﷺ did not want to assassinate a few people, even though they are munafiq, because he then said, I don't want people saying that Muhammad kills his own people. PR. Think further than your nose. Be sensible about it. If I kill these people who are munafiq, and they're detriment to the community, no doubt, and the ummah, but what repercussion will that have on a non-Muslim who's now come into Medina, and the only thing he observes is that Muhammad is killing his own people? He's going to take this message to his people, and that's the only word those people will know. So that, understanding that your actions do have a repercussion on the observation of other people. So be very careful. You cannot do anything, even though it may be halal, if it's going to bring the Muslim ummah into disrepute. You can't do it. And the fuqaha are very, very careful. It's mentioned several times in Hidayah. This point, the book of fiqh, Hanafi book of fiqh, Hidayah. So why is that? Because we want Muslims to have a good name. We want people to say good things about Islam, not bad things about Islam. So it's very important how you present yourself, and how you stay away from certain acts, so that you don't bring the ummah into disrepute. So this surah is all about imtihan and testing and trying, evaluating, making sure that everyone is now vetted. You can vet the ummah. So the fuqaha make sure that the actions of the ummah are vetted through fiqh. They make sure we're not going to give anybody a reason to think negatively about the Prophet ﷺ, to think negatively about Allah, to think negatively about Islam, to think negatively about the Sunnah, to think negatively about Muslims. We're not going to do that. We must show a better image through our actions and behavior. So we don't portray Muslims to be whatever way, that it stops them. Fitna is the word used in the ayah. It becomes a fitna and a test for non-Muslims. So we can't behave in such a way that we become a fitna for non-Muslims from becoming Muslim. That's our responsibility, not just the media. You can blame the media all you want, but we have some onus on us too. We have certain responsibilities as a society, as a community, as an ummah. Anyway, so these are the beginnings of this surah. You will see as the surah progresses, there'll be more measures of imtihan and testing as we go along, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. We'll talk to you soon. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallah bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun ala al-mursalin.